In this video, I just wanted to share my settings for DayZ for anyone that's curious. I kind of played around with these quite a lot in the last few months, and these settings I'm using now, I've been using for quite a few of my videos, and I've been quite comfortable with how these have been clear on visuals, but also keep the game looking as best as it can for what I'm happy with. Right, and I'm on 1080p, so I'll go over some of my controls as well. But if we just start with the game here, the settings for DayZ, there will be a folder in your documents, your generic, I think, documents folder, where a lot of games keep their saves for your data. There will be a DayZ folder, and in that DayZ folder, I believe there will be your name, and there will be settings. And in your settings there, it will go into a bit more detail on, say, for example, your field of view. So I wasn't sure what I was using. Recently, I was trying to keep more of a uniform field of view and sensitivity across a lot of the games I play. I would typically recommend with, say, games, you want probably, like, even particularly the previous sort of AAA titles, you want quite a high field of view. I would say DayZ is one of these because of its slower pace. I preferred having 80, which is kind of what I'm used to in a lot of sort of competitive games anyway. So to find that, I went into the config file and set it to 80, which is apparently this bit right here. But there is no numbers. I'm not sure how high it can go, so there might be a limit. It's probably only at 100 or something anyway. I'm not too sure of the limit. But if you want to be very precise with your field of view, let's say you're going to have to go in your settings and edit it there, and it will put it to the right bit here, whatever that is. Or you can adjust it in here and it will tell you in the settings what it's on. But that's something I did recently. So we're on 80, which is what I use for other competitive games, as I say, if I can. Audio is so-so. Music, I have it as low as I can. Sometimes it's best to turn the ambient off, particularly if you're aware that you're going to be coming into maybe contact with more than one player. It's probably a good idea to turn the ambient off for a little while, just so you can get them as much audio as you can. But that's just personal preference. I think the default effects volume can be quite low. I would even dare say I probably need to make this... You don't want to be deaf. The problem is you don't want to scare yourself, right? I'm going to keep that there, but maybe I need to test around with this and make that max. But this would be pretty much anything from like gunshots and footsteps and everything. You definitely don't want this low. You definitely don't want it low. I'm not sure about having it max. Maybe I can play around with that myself. But so far I'm happy with the audio and what I can hear, but maybe I just cranked that to the max. So the all-important graphic settings, skip the other, it's fine. Most people probably disagree with this, but I've done this for frames and getting as many frames as I can, and it still can be, because it's quite an intensive game anyway, depending how many people are on the server, how many people are in your bubble, which I believe is how this game works and how many other games work. It's people in your little network bubble. Can increase the intensivity of your, say, game. And so they used to hide like the render distance. I believe servers can lock that, but the render distance generally will be this top one up here, which is under terrain visibility, but I've generally got it on poor. I don't think it changes the distance players render in, but don't quote me on that. This is just what I use to get the most amount of frames out of it. And so we use poor on object visibility as well. I think this is the same thing of like buildings and how like tractors and things like render in the distance. Then object detail is actually like items in the game and stuff like your character and models and things. So I like to keep that on high. I wouldn't really recommend ever going above high on any game. It's just a good rule of thumb. It's extreme, or in brackets ultra. I would generally avoid that. They always say ultra and extreme sort of graphics are for taking screenshots, okay, and then playing on high is what you do to enjoy it, or at least try and enjoy it, right? So texture details, same deal as on high. Shadow details poor. You could really have this higher, but whatever. Texture filtering. So as far as this is basically your anisotropic filtering. I used to, with save on frames, always keep this on low in every game I play. Recently, I've turned this to high, and I would recommend it because it doesn't generally seem an intensive setting. And if it can make everything in your field of view within the next sort of 50 to 100 meters clearer than it otherwise would, which is basically what it does, right? It cleans up your sort of field of view, as it were, in your distance. I would say that's very worth having and generally not that intensive. I think it can be more intensive for, say, like RAM. So if you're limited on RAM, stuff like that's going to be a bit harder to use, maybe. Terrain surface detail, whatever, but I use low. Post-processing anti-aliasing. You can have this on and it will look a bit better, maybe. But I mean, even now I can tell it's just gone blurry. So generally disable that. Hardware anti-aliasing is what you want, which using the hardware anti-aliasing, you get this bottom feature, which is foliage smoothing. To be honest, you need to have this on, I would say. The game looks so much cleaner with this feature on. It's night and day, in fact, with this setting. So I hard settled on medium, and with this setting on, if you don't like that, whatever, but I would personally recommend that's probably some of the secret sauce you might be missing with generally how this game looks. Ambient occlusion, sorry, disable it. And pretty much every single game you play that's competitive, disable it. If it's a single player, leave it on, enjoy it. But this is just like extra shadows and can annoyingly be very intensive in these kind of games. Just turn it off. It's very intensive in DayZ. Yeah, it's not worth it. And then post-processing and water reflections. I can't turn either of these off, I think. No, I can turn water reflections off, but I've got it on low. And post-processing quality. I just tend to leave this on low nowadays. It can be intensive. I don't know how it really affects DayZ. Yeah, play with this setting maybe if you want. If you like these other settings that I've got, then maybe play around with it. But that's generally what I've used. I say I messed around with this a lot, like having both of the anti-aliasing, having foliage smoothing off because maybe you can see better. And I don't know. I never went with it. Having the foliage smoothing off and making it a bit more jank, and maybe turn up the anti-aliasing with, say, this blur, so maybe it doesn't look so bad, right? I played around with all of that. I would generally say these are, after like my experience in the game, these are the best with PvP and whatever, what have you. So controls my sensitivity 66, whatever. This is the same deal with the field of view. You probably want to play around with this between other games and try and match this to what your sensitivity is in other games. You definitely don't want to be playing different games with different sensitivity and then come back to something like this, because it's just going to feel really hard. If you can make your sensitivity feel identical to other games, then coming to DayZ is really comfortable experience, in my opinion. So default controls are generally as they are. I don't really tend to change much. So my prone is C. My change stance is left alt, so that would be just crouching. I'm not sure if I can press that in different times and it will... I'm not sure. I'm not too sure. I don't think I can hold it, but maybe. Walk or run, toggle. I think let's say all this is sort of default, left control. Item action, left mouse button. Yeah. Environment action, F. Previous next action, let's face is all default. Sprint modifiers thing. So I think this is basically all default. But then the free look modifier is R. So I find it annoying if it was on toggle, which is the bottom one, which I have disabled. Generally, I have it on as R because you can just hold R and look around with the mouse and then let go of it. And I use this for other games that have this feature, and it just feels really comfortable to just take a quick peek over your shoulder, press R, look around, let go of it, and you're fine. This is something that was a bit annoying because I believe I had it on toggle when I first played DayZ, and you end up in a fight and you try and, like, say, run around a corner, but you're still toggled. So your character doesn't actually move, and you look, but you carry on running. So I would avoid toggle unless you're really comfortable with it, and then go to R. I think eye focus is always middle, isn't it? That's what I use. So change fire is B. I think that's pretty standard. Zeroing up and down, I use U and I. I've kind of always done that. Each to their own, but that's kind of what I definitely do. And then hold breath is left shift. Again, I think something here with the hold breath's a little bit scuffed as default, but I just changed this to left shift, which is obviously sprint as well, but it doesn't seem to affect it. You can double bind it, and it's fine. Toggle aim down sights is obviously unbound. I believe I've got it as raise modifier is right mouse button. So if I click right mouse button, you'll ADS, and if you hold it, you'll hip fire. Sort of stance with that. So again, that's kind of fine. Vehicle, again, it looks pretty default. Gestures is default. And then push talk is T and everything. I think this is all Z's the menu. Toggle quick slots here, the corner. Map is M. Yeah, this is all pretty standard voice up and down, yeah. So if that helped you, leave a like. You know, this is going over the settings I've used now for quite a while. I'm quite comfortable with these. Being comfortable is probably the biggest thing. Help yourself in DayZ is actually giving yourself a bit of a chance, as if you could just come in and not worry about the controls, not worry about the toggle and things. You know, you can just concentrate on enjoying your adventure and enjoying the game. So thank you very much for watching. I say leave a like if you enjoyed it and it helped you, and I'll see you in the next video.